Have you ever stood in front of a mirror, looked into your own eyes and asked, "Who is this person?" Have you ever felt like an actor playing a role in someone else's play? I used to be that way. For 15 years. The story I want to tell today isn't about a divorce. It's not about cigarette ash or orchid pots. It's about a woman who learned how to die slowly, then learned how to live again. About realizing that a life is too long to live wrong, but it's also long enough to start over. And if you're listening, maybe you're also wondering, is it too late to change? The answer is, it's never too late. Sometimes, living wrong happens slowly, and no one notices. I don't remember when I started living wrong. Maybe it was the first day I said okay to something I didn't want. The first day I swallowed my objections. The first day I thought, whatever, I'll just deal with it. It started with small things. I didn't like blue, but he bought me a blue shirt. I said thank you. I didn't like action movies, but every night we watched action movies. I sat there, eyes on the screen, mind somewhere else. I didn't like staying up late, but his friends did. I didn't like beer, but everyone drank beer. I didn't like loud voices, but he and his friends spoke loudly. Gradually, I learned to be silent, learned to have no opinions, learned to be a shadow. And then one day, when someone asked me what I liked, I couldn't answer, not because I was shy, but because I couldn't remember what I liked anymore. I had lived as someone else for so long that I forgot who I was. That's when I understood. I was living wrong, but I didn't know how to live right anymore. So I kept living wrong because I was afraid of not knowing how to live right. But living wrong for too long has consequences. In the 5th year of my marriage, I began to feel empty, not sad, not angry, empty, like a house no one lives in. I would wake up, go to work, cook dinner, smile at neighbors, listen to him talk about his day, but it all felt like a movie I was watching, not a life I was living. I felt like a robot programmed to be a wife, a mother, a daughter-in-law. At night, I would lie there staring at the ceiling and ask myself, if I died right now, would I regret anything? And the frightening answer was, number. Not because I had a wonderful life, but because I had never really lived. I began wishing I could be someone else. Wishing I had the courage of my friend who got divorced. Wishing I had the freedom of my happily single sister. Wishing I had the passion of my neighbor who made art. I wished for everything except being myself. Because myself no longer existed. I had lost myself somewhere in all those years of living to please others. That's when I understood. I wasn't living wrong in just one day. I was living wrong every day, every hour, every minute. Then there was the final straw. A cigarette ash fell into my orchid pot. The 98th time that year, I was counting. I had started counting everything. How many times he didn't listen to me. How many times I had to repeat myself. How many times I swallowed my protests. That day, when I saw the ash on those small purple flowers, something inside me shattered. Not anger, but clarity. A painful and crystalline clarity. I stood there, holding the cigarette ash in my hand, and suddenly understood. This wasn't about cigarette ash. This was about him not seeing me, about how what I cared about didn't matter to him, about how I had become invisible in my own home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to him, listening to his steady breathing, and asked myself, how long will I live like this? Another 10 years? 20 years? Until I die? And the answer came to me like lightning. A life is too long to live wrong. That was the first time I realized I had a choice. I could keep living wrong, or I could stop. But stopping meant facing my biggest fear, the fear of not knowing who I really was. And from that awakening, the first questions emerged. I began asking myself questions I hadn't asked in 15 years. What do I really want? Am I happy? If I could choose again, would I choose this life? The answers terrified me. I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't happy. And no, I wouldn't choose this life if I could choose again. But even more frightening was the question, is it too late to change? I was 35. I had a child. I had obligations. I had mountains of expectations from family, friends, society. Did I have the right to abandon everything to find myself again? I started observing other women. My close friend who divorced at 40 and was now studying nursing. My neighbor who left banking to open a bakery at 45. The teacher who retired early to travel the world. And I realized they didn't die from changing. They lived more because they changed. They glowed in ways they never had when living according to others' expectations. That's when I understood. Age is just a number. Obligations can be negotiated. Others' expectations don't matter more than your own happiness. For the first time in 15 years, I felt like I could breathe deeply. But understanding and acting are two different things. Deciding to change and actually changing are two completely different things. Every day, I had to fight myself. Against fear, against guilt, against the voice in my head whispering, "You're selfish. You're destroying your family. You're a terrible mother." There were nights I almost gave up. I thought, just live like this. At least everyone will be happy. But then I looked at my child. I didn't want them to learn to live like a shadow. I didn't want them to think women should accept unhappy lives. I started with small changes. I bought myself flowers. I read books I liked. I said no to invitations I didn't want to accept. Every time I said no, my heart pounded like a drum. But I felt more alive. He began to notice the changes. "What's wrong with you? You're acting strange. Are you depressed?" He didn't understand that I wasn't depressed. I was awake. For the first time in 15 years, I was truly awake. And in that awakening, I saw clearly. We weren't compatible. We never had been. We were just used to each other. That's when I understood. Real love isn't just habit. And then, one day, I encountered real love. He appeared when I was learning to love myself, not when I was desperately searching for someone to save me, but when I was finding myself again. The first thing he said to me, "You look sad. Not, you're beautiful, not, do you have time, but you look sad." He saw me. He saw the pain I was carrying. We talked about books, about flowers, about small things no one had ever bothered to ask my opinion about. For the first time, I felt my thoughts had value. For the first time, I didn't have to pretend to be someone else. When I told him about my crumbling marriage, he didn't advise me to stay for the child. He just asked, "Are you happy?" And when I answered no, he nodded and said, "Then you deserve to be happy." That sentence struck my heart like lightning. For years, no one had told me I deserved happiness. I only heard, "You must endure. You must sacrifice. You must think of your child." With him, I learned that love isn't sacrifice. Love is when two people help each other become the best versions of themselves. Love is when you don't have to hide anything. For the first time in my life, I understood what real love was. And from that love, I found strength. The day I told him, my ex-husband, that I wanted a divorce, I didn't feel angry or resentful. I just felt peaceful. Peaceful because I had finally been brave enough to do the right thing. "Why?" he asked. "Did I do something wrong?" "You didn't do anything wrong," I replied. "We're just not compatible. And a life is too long to live with someone you're not compatible with." It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried from guilt. There were days I wondered if I was being selfish. But every morning I woke up, I felt lighter. I felt like I was living, not just existing. My child didn't understand at first. But when they saw Mom smile genuinely, when they saw Mom have passion and dreams, my child said, "Mom looks prettier now." I was 35 when I started over. Not very young, but not too late either. I learned that it's never too late to become who you want to be. Starting over was the gift I gave myself. And today, I want to give that gift to you. Today, 3 years after I decided to start over, I want to tell you, someone who might be listening to this story and recognizing yourself in it, you don't need to be perfect to deserve happiness. You don't need to be the perfect mother, wife, or daughter to have the right to live for yourself. You just need to be human. A life is too long to live wrong. Too long to accept what doesn't make you happy. Too long to stay silent when your heart is screaming. But a life is also long enough to start over. Long enough to learn to love yourself. Long enough to find real love. Long enough to become the best version of yourself. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until your children grow up. Don't wait until circumstances are favorable. Start today. Start by asking yourself, what do I really want? And when you find the answer, have the courage to pursue it. This life is yours. Don't let anyone else live it for you. Today, do one small thing for yourself. Just one thing, because you deserve it.